Welcome to Palace Penguins United Big Book Study. This week I'm pleased to reintroduce Max D, who's come along to kindly continue with the Big Book Study. Over to you, Max.
Thank you so much, Laz, for your service, and everybody in the background for your service. My name is Max. I'm an alcoholic. You know that drugs are part of my story too, and I'm thrilled, delighted to be here this morning as we move into step 10. Can't believe we're actually here. And if you have your big book in front of you, it might be helpful because I'm probably going to dance around the pages this morning a little bit as we get into this step 10. There's all sorts of thoughts jumping in and out of my head as to what to cover, not cover. So I'm just going to, as always, just go with the flow with it all. I have to say that set-aside prayer is so incredibly important this morning, to set aside every single thing you think you know about the program, about your recovery, about step 10, in order to have a new experience with God, because potentially how I'm going to talk about this is not what you're used to within step 10. I hear all sorts of everything in relation to step 10. And honestly, rarely do I hear the clear-cut directions that are set out in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's my own bitter experience of it as well. And what I would say is that sometimes when a person calls me looking for help or asking for sponsorship or whatever, and they've been in the fellowship a long period of time and they've said they've had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps and they previously had a sponsor and so I'll automatically tap into where they're at in 10, 11 and 12, their daily reprieve. So talk me through where you're at with step 10. And they'll tell me about this stuff that they're doing or what they previously did, because inevitably they've stopped doing it anyway. Even though 10, 11 and 12 is your daily reprieve. Daily. Every day. Now I'm sure I'm speaking to the converted, so forgive me if I'm on repeat for you guys, but it's important that, not everybody in the room may be in the place, but yeah, they'll say things like, well, I write down my spot check inventory at the end of the day. Okay, well, that's not step 10. They'll say that they send through their spot check inventory throughout the day and at the end of the day to their sponsor, and then their sponsor sends them back their defects of character, which is not step 10. Or they just stop doing it because they don't think it works. It's interesting. And then we go into 11 and then we go into 12. But as you know, with me, we grow where we're planted. So I'm just going to talk about step 10. And the little myths that need to be busted around 11 and 12. We can get to that point when we get to that point. So step 10, we don't just hear about it, page 84, when we get to that step. We're first introduced to it right back on page 13. Right back in step 1, right back in Bill's story, where he shares the beautiful summary of the steps on page 13. And in that, he talks about the fact that the paragraph begins, I was to test my thinking by the new God consciousness within. Common sense would thus become uncommon sense. That's step 10. That's what he's describing. Now on page 13 with my sponsor, when I was in that part of the book, that was like pure and utter Japanese to me. Hadn't a clue what it meant. And sometimes even now when I read it, I kind of get a little bit confused about that common sense would become uncommon sense. So this is not new information to us, step 10. We might have forgotten about it by the time we get to 84, but it's not new information. And when I'm with a sponsor, I'll always bring them back to 13 to remind them of the fact that we talked about this previously. But isn't it interesting? I was to test my thinking by the new God consciousness within. This is all about my thinking. This is all about tapping into the connection, the power, no longer unsuspected in a resource. It's fully present within me, the great reality deep down within me, that is in every single man, woman and child. It's new to me because I've just started tapping into it. Okay. God consciousness, all that we're talking about here is awareness. So it's my thinking. I'm testing my thinking by this new experience that I'm having with this God of my own understanding within me. Common sense would thus become uncommon sense. The common sense that I had before was driven by my feelings, my emotion, my ego, my reactions to life. That was common sense to me. You said something to me and made me angry. That was common sense that I would retaliate. You did something to me that I wasn't happy about, then woe betide you, because I would make sure that I got one back on you. Ego, driven by fear, driven by hundreds of forms of fear, driven by 100 forms of selfishness, no matter what it was, driven by me. And this uncommon sense that they're talking about is this change that we've undergone, this psychic change, this personality change that we're going through, that has already happened, that is in the process of happening. We're moving from this common sense external view of the world being driven by my self-reliance to what feels uncommon sense to this spiritual nature and this spiritual way of living. It doesn't make any sense to me because I've been so used to be driven by my own self-reliance. So the common sense becomes uncommon sense because it feels like I'm tapping into something so unusual and so far away from me that I don't know what to do with it. But as we practice and take the action, and remember this is so important, it's a program of recovery, but it's a program of action, practical action. It takes practice, it takes action. And the only way that this unsensical thing that I've just tapped into becomes my new common sense is by practicing it every single day as is suggested. So it might feel odd, it might feel strange, but we're undergoing this spiritual transformation, not just this personality transformation and personality change. There's something else happening as well. So the steps and the practical program, which at the beginning seemed totally and utterly nonsensical, effectively becomes our way of living. And what they're setting out in the 10th step, masterly detail. And I mean masterly clear-cut directions and detail is some of the, if not the most life-changing directions that I have ever experienced. My step 10 practice has changed my life because it has changed the way I think. And it is the most life-giving, vibrant. I just adore this step, but it has to be followed with 11 and 12 also. Okay. But step 10, I could talk about it for days. I could talk about it for weeks because it changed my outlook on life so much. Because like I said last week, at some point, my thinking was totally and utterly warped about everybody in this world, about everything in this world. Yet through, like it says on page 25, this deep and effective spiritual experience, the power that is greater than me has entered into my heart, lives in me in a way that is miraculous, and as a result of that has enabled me to change my view upon life, upon this world, and upon my fellows, and every other person in this world that I interact with. So on page 13, it's not the only time that we hear about our thinking as we go through the rest of the steps. So there's a couple of points, and I'm only going to point out a couple of them. You know, if anybody's thinking, oh, she missed that one, and she's missed that one, and she didn't do that one, that's okay. Just you stick it on your list. I'm only going to mention a couple of them. Page 59, it talks about the fact that we thought we could find an easier, softer way, our thinking. As we're moving into step 3, we're, thinking we could find an easier, softer way, but in actual fact, the easier, softer way to get full-blown recovery is to have a spiritual awakening as the result of the steps. Page 66, we talk about the fact as we're moving into that 4th step inventory, right into the body of the 4th step resentment inventory, bottom of page 66, we start to look at things from an entirely different angle. Our thinking is already starting to change through this 4th step process. Page 73, we talk about at the top paragraph as we're moving into our step 5. We only thought we'd lost our egoism. We only thought we'd lost our fear. They only thought they'd humbled themselves until they, told somebody all of their life story. So see the whole way through, thought. So as we're undergoing this psychic change, this personality change, we're also going through this emotional transformation. We're also going through this spiritual transformation. And it's all to do with our thinking. Do you know when you hear people come into the rooms, I hear this all the time, and it's like, aye, that's dead on. That wee phrase that rolls off your tongue like silk. It's dead on that you can say that. I come into these rooms for my drinking and I stay for my thinking. Aye. But what do you mean? What do you actually mean by that? Because I rarely hear people talking about the solution of what it is to use the steps and the God of my understanding to change my thinking, So think about that phrase. I come in from a drinking, I come in from a drugging, and I stay from a thinking. Are you really here for your thinking? Are you really here to understand, to grow in effectiveness and understanding about your thinking? Or are you just happy to sit about and just continue the way that you are? Because if your thinking's not changing, then what are we doing here? What are we at? What is your daily reprieve? It says in the doctor's opinion, our lives are recreated. It tells us in the 3rd step promises on page 63, we were reborn. Our life is not the same at step 10 as what it was when we were journeying through the steps. And in the first instance, where we fall down is not practicing this daily as is set out. I can't emphasize that enough. Because if you stop 10 daily, 11 daily, 12 daily, I don't even want to talk about what's going to happen. You know yourselves. You can work that one out yourself. Doesn't take me to tell you. So, the paragraph that we're starting with today, this thought brings us to step 10. What thought brings us to step 10? Well, it's the line before. They will always materialize if we work for them. That's it. this thought. So if you continue to work through your amends, they will always materialize if you work for them. But this thought also brings us to step 10, that this takes work, it takes action. Okay? They will always materialize if we work for them. So this thought brings us to step 10, which also means if we work for them, which also means this takes action. So this thought, if we work for them, also brings us to step 10, which suggests. I see that word. Was there any suggestion? Well, we know back on page 60 that they talk about the laws, these spiritual principles, the principles we have set down are guides to progress. Okay. Back in the AA dictionary of the 1930s, these principles mean laws. If we break the law in this planet of this world, in this human world, we get in trouble. If we don't follow the basic spiritual principles of our program, we will get in trouble, essentially, is an easy way to put it. So once you agree to be willing and honest enough and open-minded enough to go through with the program of recovery, they're not suggestions. They're principles, they're spiritual laws by which we are guided to maintain our conscious contact with the power that we have tapped into. So, yeah, it does suggest, but let me tell you, if you don't, then it tells us later on what will happen also. So it suggests what? That we continue to take personal inventory. I forgot to mention the fact that step 10 in the short form is set out on page 59, and it just simply says, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. So that's often what I hear people talk about in the rooms, step 10 in the short form. I'm continuing to take a spot check inventory at the end of the day, and when I'm wrong, I'm making amends. Okay, that's it. That's not it. That one sentence in the short form is not it. It says what it says on the tin, does what it says on the tin. It's the short form. We're going into the longer form, more detailed instructions. So we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. Notice the word continue, 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 continue. It means continue. To take personal inventory, my inventory. Not everybody else is out there in the world. You've heard me say this before. What really gets on my wick, what really gets on my nerves sometimes is that Sandra's laughing here because she probably knows what I'm going to say. I'm constantly surrounded by these people that totally and utterly insist on having their own personalities. And it drives me to distraction. Okay, that's my challenge daily. But I ain't here to take your inventory. Now, there's means and ways later on when I'm in my step 11 and when I'm in step 12 where I look at other individuals and all of that. But right now, step 10 is about my personal inventory. I'm not going to start confusing matters. It's not that anyway, I'm not going to confuse matters. I'm not getting into it. So we continue to take the personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. Because remember, we've dealt with all of the old ones. We're currently dealing with all of the old ones as we go through our step 9 amends. We've looked at the old inventory. We've looked at the years gone past in our step 4 and step 5, right? We've asked God to remove our defects and our shortcomings in 6 and 7. We've turned our will in our life over 4 through 7. We made that decision in step 3. And remember also that third step prayer. Build with me. Do with me. Okay, so you're not doing this by yourself. You've not been doing this by yourself since you made that decision in step 3. And now this connection with this power that is greater than you intensifies, 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 and becomes much more of a way of living. It seems nonsensical when we start out on this process, but it does become common sense to the extent now where it's just, like it says later on, a working part of our mind. We vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. So you've got things going on here parallel. Whilst I'm doing all of my 9-step amends, I'm vigorously cleaning up the past, okay? At the same time as doing that, I'm starting into my practice of 10, 11, and 12, okay? So you continue with all of your amends. You don't have to get all of your amends done before you start step 10, because if that hadn't been the case for me, I would have been waiting 17 and a half years by the time I got all of my amends done. But we're doing all of that amends work parallel with getting into the practice of our step 10. Okay, because this is where we get this way of living. And I love, love, love the word vigorous. You know, in the forward to the second edition, it talks about strenuous work, one alcoholic with another ensures permanent recovery across the world. Well, vigorously means strenuous. It's strenuous work as well, but it's done energetically. You know, somebody that is vigorously doing something is full of physical and mental strength. So from our perspective, when we're doing this thought is bringing us to, and it's all about our thinking. This is about me on the daily, building my mental strength, building through my mental awareness, my God consciousness. I'm building that strength. I'm building the muscle. You know, like some people that go to the gym, not me. But if you're a gym person, then you know you're going to the gym to build your muscle strength or whatever it is you do. And with step 10, I'm building my mental, my thinking strength in connecting to that power. Because the reality of it is, and you might think that this is weird, but my will is God's will. My will is God's will. I have to maintain it, and God sorts out the condition. That's why these steps are called the maintenance steps. I maintain it by taking the action, and in maintaining it and taking the action, I'm in a constant relationship and consciousness and connection and conversation with this power that is greater than me. It never stops. It never stops. But yes, God gave us free will to use. But in this step 10 process, I have become accustomed, disciplined. That's the key. I've become disciplined in tapping into this source constantly. May you find him now, top of page 59. May you find him now, and now, and now, and now, and now, and now, and now. Every single second of the day, I have the opportunity, the ability, if I choose to always be aligned with the will of God. I am a human being, of course. And that's why we have other steps in place to ensure that we can correct those things as we go along. We're no longer building up a past. We're correcting as we go along. We're clearing down every single day. So we've entered the world of the Spirit. Isn't that just beautiful? If I close my eyes and think about that, like we've entered the world of the Spirit, capitalized, another word for God. It's as if we've just opened this big, big wooden door and have just put our toe over the threshold. And we're probably just peering around the corner thinking, I don't know about this. Yet we do know deep down within that we've got to keep going with this, because the transformation that has already happened up to this point is truly significant. Like it says in the spiritual experience at the back of the book, friends of the newcomer see the change in them before they even recognize it in themselves. And there might be a little bit of trepidation around this daily reprieve stuff, like, oh my God, the rest of my life I have to do this. Yeah, you do. But becomes a way of living. It doesn't feel like work all the time, but yet it is. It's strenuous. It's vigorous. We've only just entered the world of the spirit. We're new to this. You're just peeking around that little doorway, and there's an entire expansiveness, limitless, changeless resource that I can constantly resource at any given moment of the day, in the now, in the present. That's what step 10 is all about. My thinking in the moment, what am I doing about that? Our function. You know, in the fear inventory, it tells us we're in the world to play the role He assigns. We have assignments to do every day. We have a new employer, like it says on page 63 in the third step promises, capitalized, another word for God. We've got a job to do. I am an agent of God. Like it tells us, a special agent of God, spearhead of God's ever advancing creation. We agnostics. So we've been primed to what our new job is going to be as we've worked our way through the steps. Our next function, that's our job, our next purpose. So my next assignment, my next purpose is to grow. How beautiful is that? You always hear me say, we grow where we're planted. You know, I'm here today sitting talking to you, and I know, intuitively I now know, that whilst I'm sitting here talking with you, whether you believe it or not, I don't care. But what I intuitively know is I'm growing. I'm growing. Because every single time I give this away, I get more energy back to keep on giving it away. And as I give that away, I'm growing. I'm growing in my thought processes. I'm growing in my connection. I'm growing in my awareness. That's what this is all about. And what am I growing? In understanding and effectiveness. I'm growing my understanding about what this nonsensical way of living means. I'm growing in understanding about the role that I play in this spiritual realm. I'm growing in understanding about my relationship with God. I'm growing in understanding of who I truly am and who God wants me to be, who God has always wanted and needed me to be. I'm a spearhead of His ever-advancing creation. I'm here to create. I'm here to pass this message on. I'm here to keep on moving the energy. Because let me tell you now, I see the world from an entirely different angle, simply because of this program, but specifically because of step 10 changing my life and my thinking. The universe is always, I am telling you now, it's always conspiring in my favor. Always. No matter what. That's what I've learned. That's what I've been given. Through the grace of this power, that's what I've been given. And I'm growing in effectiveness. I'm growing in how to relate to this power, depend on this power, talk to this power. I'm growing in effectiveness in my daily life. I'm growing in my effectiveness around my fellows. I'm growing in effectiveness as to how to live life. I'm growing in my effectiveness to accept things as they are, no matter what. I'm growing in my effectiveness to see you for the beautiful people that you are. I'm growing in effectiveness in relation to not having an opinion and judgment on people. I'm growing in my effectiveness to not be the victim anymore, because what this has also taught me is that there's not one person on this planet that can do me any harm. Because I am so safe and protected by this connection. Not only from alcohol, I am so safe and protected through the grace of this power that we've tapped into, that we've been given access to, that builds with me, that does with me you might hear people saying, I get up in the morning and do all my prayers and I hand it all over to God. That's not what I do. I don't hand it all over. Like, here, God, you crack on with all of that whilst I sit here and I don't know, drink matcha lattes and eat beautiful pistachio donuts or something, and you just come back to me and let me know when you've sorted it all out. Are you kidding me? If I went to my sponsor and said, here, do you know what? Got up this morning and I handed that all over, he'd put the phone down on me. Or he'd say something really cheeky like, I wish that was my program because the work that I have to do. And he's right. This is a simple program. It's not easy. It takes effort. See all of this handing over stuff? I don't know what it means because I don't do it. I don't hand it over. God builds with me. God does with me, you know? So happy days if you're handing it over. Let me know how that goes, because if there's an easier, softer way to do it, then sure, I'm all in for it. But those people that just hand it over and then call me to say their life's in trouble, I'm like, well, where are you with 10, 11 and 12? They're like, well, I don't know where I am because I'm not doing it. I'm just handing it over. Anyway, there we are. Don't know where that little ramping Randall came. If the handing it over's working for you, dead on, that's great. Knock yourself out. But I can tell you now, see, with my thinking, no, wouldn't work. And I know it through bitter experience. I'm just going to leave that one there. But what this step enables me to do is to see things from an entirely different angle and know when to take action and when not to take action. And as we go through, into our prayer meditation piece in 11, that becomes even more clear and clarity. So here's the thing though. Our purpose is to grow in understanding and effectiveness, but here's the little caveat. This is not an overnight matter. There you go, everybody. If you're expecting results, day 1 of step 10, you can think again. This is not an overnight matter. Boom. I used to be like that when I did go to the gym one day. I was expecting to come out like an Olympian, fit and all of that. Or one of those days when I went on a diet. You ever see those little memes where you're standing on the scales and you want to lose 10 stone in a day? There's a famous comedian that talks about that. Goes to Weight Watchers and whatever. I've lost 10 stone in a day. I wanted immediate results all the time in my life. Immediate. Boom. Get me what I want, when I want. Need to sort it out. And through this, I've learned that it is not about immediacy. Sometimes it is that I get the answers immediately because it's clear and I'm connected and, I've got that peace of mind. Other times, more often than not, actually, it's not immediate. More often than not, it's a constant practice. It's not an overnight matter. And people give up on this step because they think it's not working. Who are you to say it's not working? How do you know it's not working? It's not up to you to sort out the condition. It's up to you to maintain it. So if you're not doing it every day, you're not maintaining it. The condition's never going to get sorted. How do you like them apples is what my sponsor would have said at that point. Here's the next thing. It should continue for our lifetime. Like it says in our step 5, top of page 74. If you live long and happily in this world, my lifetime is class. I don't care how long or short it is, but whilst I'm here, it's class. No matter what is going on in my life. And if I was to sit here and tell you what's been going on in my life since the beginning of December up until yesterday, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it. You'd be like, well, how's she rocked up every Saturday? Doesn't matter. None of your business. I just keep on going because I'm growing in understanding and effectiveness. I'm here to play the role that he assigns. What's going on in my life and whatever, none of your business. None of my business. Because all I've got to do is this. I'm a perfect child of God. I get paid in abundance through doing this stuff. And if you're expecting immediate results with this, then get ready for immediate use because you have to work hard every day at this. And the results, if that's what you want to know about results, I don't know what results you'd be looking for, but it's abundance. peace of mind, direction, clarity. It's no longer about, I've got the money in the bank for me and I've got the car, because I haven't got the money in the bank and I haven't got the car, but life is still abundant. All of the things that I used to be driven by are no longer what I'm driven by. So this continues for our lifetime. Well, what continues? See how many times that word continue is mentioned? Are you getting the drift? We continue to watch. We continue to look at. We continue to observe. If you're watching something, like if you're watching television, you're taking in what's going on, right? There's a projection onto that television screen. You're watching it. It's not real though. The projection isn't real. And that's the thing also, when we're watching our thinking, what we're watching for is our thinking. We're not watching the people on the screen. We're not watching their inventory. We're watching our thinking. So we continue to observe, we continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Those are the things that came up when we did our inventory at step 4. But remember, there's 100 forms of fear. There's 100 forms of self. So there's 100 forms of jealousy. There's 100 forms of envy. We're watching for selfishness, dishonest, resentment, and fear. And all of the things related to that, we're continuing to watch every single second of the day. Because what I'm watching may not be what's really happening on the external. What I'm watching for is what's happening inside me. What's rising to the surface inside me? Is it selfishness? Is it dishonesty? Is it resentment? Is it fear? I'm watching that rise into the surface inside me. And when they crop up, boom, immediately. When these crop up like a little weed, you know what happens when we don't weed the garden? When these crop up, boom, we ask. That's the prayer. We ask God to, at once, remove them. How simple is that? Watch, ask, watch, ask. I'm watching for these things cropping up inside me. I'm not watching them in you. I'm watching my reaction to what I'm experiencing, because my reaction is giving me some more information. Because if I am experiencing selfish, dishonest, resentment, fearful thinking, that's the surface level that I'm experiencing. What is underneath that is what we're going to watch for. So in the moment I'm experiencing fear, I'm watching it, I'm immediately asking God to remove it. Boom. Remove it. Gone. Take it away. Like in the 3rd step promises, or the 3rd step prayer, take away my difficulties. Build with me, do with me, but take away the difficulties. We're asking him to remove the selfishness, the dishonesty, the resentment, the fear, the jealousy, the envy, the greed, whatever it is that's cropping up, those negative things that are cropping up, the anger, the frustration, whatever. Ask them. You're watching for it rising in you. You're asking for it to be removed. Then we discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we have harmed someone. That's dead easy to do. I'm not sitting down in my office at work writing out a 4th column inventory and thinking, oh my God, where was I wrong? How's this impacting me? I'm not doing that. It's in the moment. It's on the move. I'm not saving it up till the end of the day to do it. It's in the moment. I'm on the move. It's energy. It's pace. It's moving. It's in the day. It's a way of living. Okay, so if something crops up immediately that I need to speak to somebody about, a recovered alcoholic that also practices this, or my sponsor, if I can't get a hold of my sponsor, I'll call somebody else. Listen, I'm feeling a little bit of resentment against this boss of mine or colleagues or whatever. I just need to talk this through with you. Right, okay. What's the resentment? That's the surface level. What lies beneath that? Because the person that I'm resentful against in that moment is not the problem. What lies beneath that is the cause. So let's talk about that. You think you're resentful, Mags, at your boss. What has she done? She hasn't really done anything. I'm just pissed off because I've been running late for work this morning and I'm under pressure and they've put 15 things into my calendar. All right, okay, so let's talk about that. Let's get beneath that. What's going on there? Well, I'm just busy and I'm supposed to be finishing work tonight because I've got a reflexology appointment and now I can't get there. Okay, well, let's talk about that. What lies beneath that? Well, I need to get my reflexology because I'm feeling out of kilter. Well, you're not going to be able to because of work. Let's talk about that. And then we continue down. The reality of it is I'm resentful at my boss because I'm not getting what I wanted. Because I wanted to go to reflexology. My thinking is that it's her that's the problem, when in actual fact it's not, it's me, because I'm not getting my way. See how it works? I don't sit down and write a 4-column inventory. I do that in the moment. And often I don't need to talk to somebody. I'll talk, of course, it's a practice that I do, but in the moment, the more you practice it, it's like boom, boom, boom. I watch what's going on inside me. I ask God to remove it immediately. If I've harmed somebody, I make amends quickly. I don't save it up. I make amends quickly. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. So there's the third part of step 10. Watch, ask, turn. Resolutely turn our thoughts. Now, what resolutely, beautiful thing to do, it means to act, to be firm and act in a, like an unwavering way, to keep on going, especially when you're in the face of like difficulties or when you're opposed to something. So it's having this change in our mindset and to remain strong, to remain purposeful, because we have a purpose. We have to grow in our understanding and effectiveness. This is about me becoming steadfast in my approach to this. I'm resolutely turning my thoughts, i.e. until the problem of the fear, dishonesty, selfishness, resentment, whatever it is resolved. Right? Resolutely means we keep on turning our thoughts until the fear, resentment, whatever has been taken. So what we're doing here in our step 10 practice, because this is what step 10 is, watch, ask, turn. Watch, ask, turn. Watch, ask, turn. That's all we're doing. We're watching what's rising to the surface in us that needs to be healed, because the immediate thing is not the reason why I'm angry. What lies beneath that is the reason why I'm angry. It's not you. It's not the person standing in front of you. It's something from the past being brought into the present that I need to look at and get under the skin of. I'm watching for that, watching for that, watching for that, asking for it to be removed when they crop up immediately, and resolutely turning my thoughts until my thought process changes in it. That is all that step 10 is. And as I'm going through the day, I'm kind of capturing all of this data. I'm capturing all of this stuff. How many times have I been selfish? How many times have I been fearful? How many times have I been resentful? I'm capturing that data as I go through the day because I need that for my step 11. Okay? But I'm not stopping on the bus or in the coffee shop every single time and writing this all down. I haven't got the time. I've got a busy life. You know, the program of Alcoholics Anonymous has given me a life so full, so abundant that I haven't got the time to sit. Can you imagine me saying to my boss, here, I'm going to take 15 minutes because I've got a resentment against you. I need to write this down, call somebody, and then I'll get back to my work. Can you imagine? Sure, she'd never get anything done. I'd be totally and utterly unemployed. In the moment, find him now. This takes practice. Now, in the beginning, my sponsor did give me, and I nearly wanted to say, you know what, you can do one at this stage. He gave me these little pile of 3x5 cards, you know, little index cards. And he told me, see, as you go through the day, you have to tick when you're selfish, you have to tick when you're dishonest, you have to tick when you're resentful, you have to tick when you're fearful. That's how he made me capture the data as I went through the day. So I had it in my purse, I had it in my handbag, I had it on my desk, I had it in my kitchen, and I was ticking these little things. That's how I captured the data. I no longer need to do that anymore because I've got into the discipline of this every single day, because I've been doing it every single day. But people used to see me standing about taking these little cards, but it's not anything written down extensive. It's in the moment. It's on the move. It's energy. It's vibrancy. It's keeping the day going, you know? fair play to you if you can sit down for 15 minutes every time you have a resentment, because I tell you now, no, I couldn't do it. It's not possible in this world. Because here's the thing as well, love and tolerance is our code. Now you remember back in step 1, or again, page 20, there is a solution, chapter 2. It tells us our very lives. Think of those words. Our very lives. Now, as ex-problem drinkers, depends upon our constant thought of others. Constant thought of others. So in that resolutely turning our thoughts, it's not new information, people. You've known this from step 1. Resolutely turning your thoughts. You should have been doing this anyway. So if you're sitting here this morning thinking, oh God, this is all new stuff to me. Really? Good. I'm glad it's new stuff, because it's what you need to hear today. Setting aside every single thing you think you know to have this new experience with God. Constant thought of others. Love and tolerance is our code. You know where I learned the most love and tolerance? Sometimes sitting in the rooms of the fellowship. Love and tolerance is my code. Like I have to call my friend in America, right? I have to use an international dialing code to get in touch with him. My international dialing code to the God of my understanding is love and tolerance. Whilst I'm in this world of being loving and tolerant to all, right? I feel connected. I feel at one. My will is with God's will. Now, tolerant doesn't mean that I tolerate bad behaviour. It's not that I'm letting people away with bad behaviour, whatever that bad behaviour may be. And I'm not going to go into all of that. I don't tolerate things that are inappropriate. That's not what this is saying, right? But what we're able to do through this thinking and this constant watching, asking and turning is to be able to discern the best way forward, to have that connection with the power that enables me to apply things differently in my life. It's the most powerful, powerful thing. And I'm going to give you a silly example of this, and I'm going to, wrap up on this one. And I don't know why this keeps being put back into my mind, so go with me on this one, right? Back to these people that have their personalities, like stubbornly insist on having their own personalities, and I have to deal with them every day. I've got an exceptionally beautiful friend, right? And a few weeks ago, he decided to give me, some feedback. Well, fair play to him. And he was really open and honest, and I'm going to share with you what he said, okay? Through this conversation, he said, Mags, you're pretty cold. And you're also, sometimes when you approach things, you're very clinical. And he then went on, and I've also noticed that you're very stubborn. And in addition to that, he also shared with me that he thinks I'm completely pig-headed. All in one conversation. Well, you can imagine that went down like a poop in a spaceship when I was listening to this. And by the grace of God, I just sat quietly and listened to what this very gentle soul was saying to me, right? Because seriously, what this step 10 practice in the moment has taught me, I am not generated by my emotions or feelings or what you think of me. Now, some might say that example from that gentleman is him projecting onto me what's actually happening in him. I don't care about that, because I'm not here to take his inventory. I'm here to look at what's going on inside me, having received those words, which hurt me to the core. That's how I felt. I was hurt. I was devastated, because truly I don't believe I'm cold, and I don't believe I'm clinical. And I know I can be stubborn, and I know I can be pig-headed, but to hear all of that in one go shook me to the core. And what this has enabled me to do is to take a breath and just nod and think, watch what's going on inside me: fear, pride, self-esteem, all of the stimuli is working inside me. And I'm thinking, oh my God, he hates me. What's going to happen? I need to retaliate. I need to prove to him I'm not any of those things. I need to give an explanation about what's going on. I need to tell that no, those days are gone. I don't give an explanation of anything. I'm not a victim. I'm not scraping or servile. I can stand on my own 2 feet, and that's what this amends process has also taught me. I have strength, an inner strength that comes from within, that guides me, even listening to that feedback and that conversation, that guides me to say, okay, Max, what are you going to do with this information? What are you going to do with that data? Keep listening. Keep on taking on board. And the conversation just continues to flow. And I take it away. And I continue to watch. And I ask God to remove all of those things that are bubbling up inside me. Because actually this person that's sitting in front of me is not the issue. What that conversation did was brought me back to something from the past, where the same information had been provided to me. And I had to then go back there. What is this about? What is this showing me, God? What is this for? Ask for it to be removed. Show me. What is this for? And whilst I'm working all of that through, moving through the rest of the day, moving through my work, moving through looking after my nephew, moving through walking the dog, I'm resolutely turning my thoughts to everybody else. Now, I'm no Mother Teresa running around the streets of Belfast picking people up the streets. It says resolutely turn your thoughts. So even if I haven't got an action to take around helping somebody, I'm constantly turning my thoughts to other people that I can help. It might just be a phone call. It might be just taking the dog for a walk. It might be just making my father a cup of tea or whatever. But I'm resolutely turning my thoughts until this thing, uncomfortableness, emotion, feeling, whatever it is moved on. And through that process of watching, asking, turning, I was brought to a place where I could see that what that gentleman was saying was actually fact. And that enables me to see the things that God needs to change in me and wants to build with me and wants to work with me on to take me to where he needs me to be, to the person that he has always wanted me to be. Because in that moment I was caught in the ego. In that moment I was caught in myself. In that moment I could have gone into self-reliance, but because of what the program of Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me, I was able to tap into what has now become common sense, to the loving and powerful hand of God, to tap into the loving and powerful direction that only keeps me connected and on this path. I was able to enter into my heart where that power lives in me and be guided to an outcome where that relationship becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. And I can see that sometimes when I communicate with people, I can be matter of fact. And some people take that as being cold and clinical. It's okay to be matter of fact. Many of you who have spoke to me know I'm very matter of fact. But his experience of me was that I'm cold and clinical, and I need to bear that in mind in my conversations with people going forward. So do you know what? See all of that feedback you gave me? Thank you. Thank you. Because in telling me the truth, it brought me to the truth. In telling me his truth, it brought me to the truth of what God needs to have healed in me. That's what step 10 is all about. For me, in the moment, that's just one example. Watch, ask, turn. Watch, ask, turn. And then next week, we'll talk about what I brought to my inventory that night in step 11. Because in that moment, all I'm doing is watching, asking, turning. I'll leave it at that. I hope it's made some sense.
Thanks. Mira, do you want to turn the recording off?